very warm welcome to you. You're watching CNBC TV 18. I'm Kritika Saxena. With me today is Mr. Harish Bhat. He is the Brand Custodian of Tata Sons, the Chairman of Tata Global Beverages. He has been on the channel for many quarters, but this is his first in the avatar as a Brand Custodian. Thank you so much, Harish, for taking out the time for us.
Thank you, Kritika. It's a pleasure appearing on your channel and a pleasure speaking with you today. Look forward to this dialogue.
All right. So my first question to you, Harish. It has been a tough time over the last few months. A personal question to you. How difficult or how tough has the last 1.5 months been for you?
It has been a difficult time, Kritika. There's no gainsaying that. But like many of my colleagues in the Tata Group, I am a professional. And the one thing I have borne steadily in my mind is that I should do what is right for the institution, and I should do what is right for all the stakeholders of our institution, including shareholders of our operating companies who have invested their monies in our operating companies. When you get that kind of clarity in your mind that the institution matters, and this is not about people, this is about the institution, then I think it gives you tremendous energy and focus on what you should do and what you should not do. So that's the guiding principle that I have borne in mind, and I think that's the guiding principle that many of my colleagues in the Tata Group have borne in mind over these last few weeks.
The EGMs have so far gone in the favor of Tata Sons, but if you look at the overall minority shareholder, there seems to be a twofold either way edge. There's no clarity on which way minority shareholders will bid. Explain to us and our viewers and your shareholders that are watching why Cyrus Misty continuing at Tata Sons would have been bad for the future of the group.
To begin with, I want to say that Tata Sons promoted companies, the operating companies where EGMs are being held, where Tata Sons has significant stakes. I believe that the interests of Tata Sons as the primary promoter and the interests of all our minority shareholders are absolutely aligned to each other. And let me explain why I say this. I sit as a Tata Sons nominee on the board of some of our companies. Let's say Tata Global Beverages, where I am the chairman today. When we take decisions on our board, when we take decisions of capital allocation, when we take decisions of strategy, we clearly bear in mind what is good for our shareholders. We bear in mind, is there a good strategic fit to the new growth opportunity we are talking about? We bear in mind what is the return on capital employed, what is the return on equity, what are the free cash flows that a particular stream of business would produce, and then the board comes to a considered decision on the matter. Therefore, from a Tata Sons perspective, these are the metrics that mean a lot to us. And these are the same metrics that I think many of our shareholders look for. So there is complete alignment between what Tata Sons desires of the performance of our operating companies and what our minority as well as our majority shareholders desire. That's the first point that I want to make to you. The second point I want to make to you is very clearly not driven by any person or not driven by any name. But I want to mention this, that when a director like Mr. Misty is in a position of open hostility and in an adversarial relationship with the primary promoter company, then it creates dysfunctionality on the board of the company. Then it leads to disruptions on the board of the company. And that I do not think is desirable at all. The resolutions which are coming up with the EGM in respect of the removal of Mr. Cyrus Misty as director actually focus on that. You are aware that Mr. Ratan Tata, as interim chairman of Tata Sons, has written to all our shareholders explaining the risks of Mr. Misty continuing as a director on the boards of these companies. You are also aware that Tata Sons, as recent as last week, has released a more detailed appeal to all our shareholders. So on why we would request them to vote in favor of this resolution for the removal of Mr. Misty. I'm sure all our shareholders, including all our minority shareholders, will go through that letter, will go through that appeal, and then decide what they believe is right for the operating company and for the future of the company.
The fact of the matter is that Cyrus Misty was the chairman of Tata Sons and he was closely working with you, with several operating companies. Don't you think that the whole matter, the process could have been dealt with some more sensitivity?
See, let me start by saying that I hold Mr. Misty in high personal regard. I have worked with him closely in the past, and there were roles that he had assigned to me in Tata Sons, which I have performed to the best of my ability. Insofar as the loss of confidence which the board of Tata Sons has had in Mr. Misty, I think there has been enough written about in media. I think there have been letters, there has been a detailed statement that Tata Sons has made on the matter. So if you permit me, I would not like to revisit that space again. I would rather focus on the future and what is right for our operating companies and what is right for Tata Sons.
Okay, fair enough. But I wanted one point from you. As far as the Tata statements are concerned, many statements have almost hinted of a corporate coup on the part of Cyrus Misty. Is that correct, and could that have triggered the timing and manner of his removal?
I do not want to comment on that. All I want to say is that the board of Tata Sons lost confidence in Mr. Cyrus Misty. Mr. Ratan Tata has written about that in the letter that he has sent to all shareholders. And all I want to say is loss of confidence goes beyond mere performance. Loss of confidence is a much broader term. As far as the issues which have been discussed in statements, which have been in the media for a long time, those are there for everyone to read, and I don't really think I can add anything to those statements in this interview.
Nasli Wadia has filed a defamation case against the Tata Sons. The Tata Sons statement has come out, the group statement has come out saying that Nasli Wadia worked in concert with Cyrus Misty. Do you believe that Cyrus Misty was working with Nasli Wadia to wrest control of the operating companies in some way?
See, first and foremost, you're asking me a question about a matter which I think is presently sub judice. So I would not like to comment on a matter which is currently sub judice. For all the resolutions which are coming up for vote at the EGMs of our operating companies of the Tata Group next week, I think the justification or the logic for those resolutions has already been painted out in great detail in the statements which have been released. So for something which is in the legal domain, permit me not to comment on it. I don't think it would be appropriate on my part.
Okay, fair enough. But are you prepared for a legal battle? Is Tata Group going to do whatever it takes to be able to see this through?
See, let me say that the Tata Group and Tata Sons is committed to the highest levels of corporate governance. And embedded in the highest levels of corporate governance is an absolute and rigorous adherence to the law. And therefore, whatever is required as governed by the law of the country, Tata Sons will definitely take that into account. We pride ourselves on having the highest standards of corporate governance which have been established for decades now. And I think maintaining and building on those standards of corporate governance is something that Tata Sons will continue to do in the future.
Okay, fair enough. Since the events on the 24th of October, Harish, the fact of the matter is that there has been a lot of confusion, lots said. Is there a need to evolve the role of corporate governance to clarify and give a clear-cut role of the Tata Sons, Tata Trust and group companies?
To me, these three entities have very different objectives. And let me explain. The Tata Trust, like I mentioned earlier, are a philanthropic organization which adds back to the community. Tata Sons is a business pioneer. It has grown new businesses in the past. It has supported companies that it has grown, and that's the role that Tata Sons performs in terms of pioneering new businesses, in terms of building a strong Tata brand which can support operating companies of the group, in terms of ensuring the highest levels of corporate governance, in terms of attracting the right talent, and helping our group companies to attract the right level of talent. And then you have the operating companies of the group which are very independent, which are run by their own independent boards, very competent boards, which are very focused on their individual strategies, their individual performance, their individual paths forward. So the roles of these three are very distinct. Corporate governance is an evolving framework, and as we move into the future, I'm sure the Tata Group will ensure that the levels of corporate governance are always at the cutting edge as far as Tata Sons and the Tata Group is concerned.
So you believe that right now, as far as clarity in the structure of Tata Sons, Tata Trust and operating companies are concerned, you gave me the metrics, that is clarified right now, because there, a lot of questions have been raised on the role of Tata Trusts and any role that they play in terms of what Tata Sons or what operating companies have to do.
I think, like I told you, the larger role that each of these entities plays is very clear in our minds.
It is.
And like I've also explained to you, as far as our operating companies of the Tata Group are concerned, each operating company is an independent entity. It has its own management, it has its own board of directors composed of very, very competent non-independent and independent directors. That board of directors provides the required governance and the required direction to the management of those respective companies. Of course, the company gains by being part of the Tata Group. The company gains in terms of being able to use the Tata brand, which is the most respected brand name in this country, through an appropriate brand equity license agreement. The company gains in terms of being able to attract the right talent, because people work for an operating company of a group, but people also feel very proud of being part of the larger Tata Group. So, when I began my life in the Tata Group, I was an employee of Tata Tea. I was very proud of being an assistant manager of Tata Tea, but I was equally very proud of being a member of a fine institution, which is the Tata Group. Companies gain in terms of direct or indirect financial support, which could be provided to them by Tata Sons. So I just want to re-emphasize to you that each operating company is an independent entity with its board of directors deciding on strategy, deciding on capital allocation, deciding on the way forward. But each operating company also gains tremendously from being part of a larger and finer institution like the Tata Group itself.